Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to beautiful Battlefield Park here in Stony Creek, Hamilton. My name is Fiametta Mazzetti. I'm a retired superintendent of education, and I'm here to introduce someone who needs no introduction. Jason is a devoted son and brother, loving husband to Lisa, doting father to Jake, my godson, and among many other things, for me, a loyal friend for over 40 years. Loyal also to this community. He is a strong advocate, not only for his constituents, but for all the people of Hamilton. Very committed to this community. That's why I'm so proud to be here today to see him take this next step. I truly believe and confident that he is an excellent candidate representing the right party in the right moment. Please join me in welcoming Jason Farr.
Wow. Thank you so much, Fia. You are, of course, a very special lifetime friend, and for me personally, I've always been a voice of confidence and reassurance, and you've given me a lot of confidence and reassurance over the years. So it means a whole lot to my family, of course, to have you here today, and I appreciate the introduction. With that, I want to say a quick hello to my wife, Lisa, and my son, soon to be 17-year-old Jake Farr, behind us. They have put up with a few campaigns now, and I'm fortunate that my son is a specimen of great health, and he's going to be real handy on especially the hilly side of Hamilton East Stony Creek. He knows now. He knows now, Leader Del Duca. I'm pleased as well to be here this afternoon with my fellow Ontario Liberal Party candidates in Hamilton. Katarina Damakis from Hamilton Centre, please wave. Chantel the Chance, Hamilton Mountain. Hello, Chantel. And Shuba Sandhill, Hamilton West, Ancaster, Dundas. A big hand. They're about to get very busy as well, and I hope they all have teenage sons that can help out. I would also very much like to recognize and thank former Mayor Larry Deaney and former Mayor and MP Bob Bertina for coming and supporting today as well. Great friends. So folks, this is truly a great honor for me personally, a return to my roots here, representing the Ontario Liberal Party as a candidate for Hamilton East Stony Creek. It's more than a homecoming for myself. It's an affirmation, I think, that my decades of public service in city building as a local councillor, as a broadcaster before that, is worthy of an official affiliation to the only party focused on expanding opportunities for all. And I will in no way take any advantage of the position I am in or take any of this for granted. It is a true honor. Recently, along with great supporters like Larry and Bob and many people that are with us today, I had the pleasure of speaking to hundreds and hundreds of Hamilton East and Stony Creek residents at their doors, part of the hugely successful campaign for MP Chad Collins, a good dear friend of mine from council and beyond. And as often is the case with campaigning, prevailing themes arise at the door. Leader Del Duca and I were just talking about a few, as a matter of fact, but what I heard most often just a few short months ago was an acknowledgement and a concern over the political polarization going on. Entrenched and divisive views from the left and the right have left many residents and business operators feeling frustrated and feeling excluded. There's a growing appetite here in Hamilton East Stony Creek and beyond to get back to the representation that speaks to inclusiveness and prudent management. And there's definitely qualifications abound, as you'll hear in just a few moments. So it was those sentiments coupled with my sincere belief in this Ontario Liberal leader that inspired me to take this next step. And of course, the support that I received from very good friends and family. I couldn't be more inspired by what I've heard in the last few days. So with that, it is my pleasure at this time to introduce that leader on these historic battlefield grounds, Stephen Del Duca, who believes in expanding opportunities for everyone during this campaign. He will demonstrate that. He will show everyone every day, bring a little more confidence on how this is going to be achieved by the Ontario Liberal Party. And I know it's a message that our candidates elsewhere in this city and beyond Ontario will be able to share confidently as they campaign on behalf of the Ontario Liberal Party. So everyone, please, a warm welcome now to the leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, Stephen Del Duca.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so delighted to be here with all of you back at Hamilton to stand alongside my very good friend and the next Ontario Liberal MPP for Hamilton East Stony Creek, Jason Farr. Jason, I want to say this in a very public way to you and to your family and to your entire team. Such a phenomenal turnout here today. I want to thank you for making this decision. I want to thank you for stepping forward to bring all of your experience, all of your talent, all of your dedication forward for our party, yes, but most importantly, for the hardworking families of this community who so desperately need your leadership, your experience, your integrity at Queen's Park, and you are going to be a phenomenal champion for Hamilton East Stony Creek, and everyone here knows it, and I'm just delighted that you've made this decision. Thank you so much. Thank you. You know, I don't have to tell this audience here today or people here in Hamilton much about you because they know you so well. They know what kind of talent you bring. They know what kind of know-how you bring, that tenacious work ethic, that understanding of the challenges that they face in their day-to-day lives. This is exactly what we need for this community at Queen's Park, standing alongside the rest of our Hamilton area candidates and candidates from right across this province who do believe in expanding opportunity for every single Ontario family, who do believe in building up a publicly funded education system so that every single child, yours and mine, are set up for success, a public healthcare system that actually gives us exceptional care close to home, and care that is strong enough, and a system, a public system that is strong enough to withstand future challenges, an economy where not only the rich and the well-connected few can benefit and can thrive, but where all of us have real access to economic dignity, where small businesses are not abandoned the way that they have been over the past couple of years by the Ford Conservatives, but where those small business entrepreneurs like my mom, who opened her own retail shop when she was just a little bit older in life, a little bit later in her career, have real support and a real partner at Queen's Park. This is the kind of leadership that Ontario Liberals are bringing forward. And Jason's decision to jump into this race, to be our standard bearer in this incredible community, is only going to strengthen what we are putting on offer for the people of Ontario. You know, I was thinking about this as I was driving down here earlier from my community of Vaughan. Well, first of all, I was thinking about how I'm a lifelong Ticats fan, Jason. I don't know if you know that, but this is 100% true. It's something that my dad passed on to me and my brothers and my sister. And I've been to many games that I ever win, not as many at the current field, but many games that I ever win in good weather and sometimes not such great weather. But I was also thinking about, leadership, and I was thinking about what women and men have on offer and put on offer for voters at a provincial level. I was thinking about how leadership is about choices. And I think here in Hamilton and across Ontario, we know what kind of reckless and irresponsible decisions the Ford Conservatives have made, not just during the pandemic, but consistently over the past 4 years. In his role as a local councillor, Jason would have seen this firsthand. That reckless decision to start cutting public health in advance of the greatest public health crisis that our province has faced, perhaps forever, but certainly in many, many decades. The decisions that they made to undermine and underfund and go to war with frontline education workers in our public system. The idea that they wanted to drag us backwards repeatedly when it comes to strengthening our environment and fighting climate change. And again, the reckless decisions that the Ford Conservatives have consistently made to make life worse for workers and their families. Stopping the minimum wage increase, bringing back, or rolling back, I should say, worker protections around paid sick leave and so much more. For 4 years, we have literally watched time and time and time again When the Ford Conservatives have had the opportunity to choose between moving the province forward and dragging us backwards, they've made the wrong choice every single step of the way. But the good news for people here in Hamilton, the good news for families right across Ontario, is that it doesn't have to be this way. That hope really is on the way. Here with Jason Farr and the rest of our candidates, the team and the plan and the energy that we are bringing to this mission to rebuild our province, to create the kind of recovery on the other side of COVID that truly works for all of us. Again, not just the well-connected few, where we can have a safe and healthy and strong environment, where we can confront the climate crisis, where small business entrepreneurs actually have real champions, where workers and their families can achieve and access real dignity, where our seniors, people like my parents and grandparents, aren't stuck in institutions, but actually can stay at home for the rest of their lives and have safety and be healthy and have dignity. This is what you can do when you make the right choices, when you have the right women and men, including Jason Farr, as part of your team, and when you have a plan that is compelling and strong and fair and just, and that's what the Ontario Liberals have. So over the next number of weeks, I don't even know how many days there are left until Election Day, but I'm going to say somewhere around 44, 45. Over the next number of weeks, I know that right here in Hamilton East Stony Creek, right across Hamilton, right across Ontario, Ontario Liberals will work relentlessly. We're going to keep knocking on doors. We're going to keep talking to our neighbors, our friends, and our families. We're going to raise the money that's required. When the time comes, we're going to put up the signs, and we are going to win here in Hamilton and across Ontario because we are focused on progress, because we are focused on the future. And together, when Jason Farr becomes Hamilton East Stony Creek's MPP and champion at Queen's Park, we're going to build a recovery you can be proud of. We're going to make sure that our province is always moving forward, and we're going to do it for all of us. Thank you so very much for being here today.
Okay, we're going to move over to a Q&A now. We've got some reporters on site, so we'll take questions from the floor first. There's a microphone right over here if you'd like to ask any.
Yes, Kevin Werner, Hamilton Community News. In 2017, you as transportation minister said that you would expand Highway 403. I was wondering if you would still fulfill that commitment, and as well as expand the Lincoln Alexander Parkway.
So look, first of all, I had the honor of serving for about 3.5 years in that portfolio. I spent a lot of time at transportation, still love the work that I was able to focus on, and love the work that we need to do, whether it's expanding and strengthening, I'll say, our highway and road and bridge infrastructure where it makes sense and when it makes sense, or building public transit, like expanding the GO network and making sure communities like Hamilton have their LRT, and we move the province forward in that direction. I think it makes a lot of sense to make sure we are investing in those highways, again, where it makes sense, when it makes sense. I know that existing infrastructure like the 403 and the Parkway and others across this province need constant attention and constant building out. I will admit that I have not seen exactly what's being done over the last 4 years on those two specific highways, but I'd be happy to take a look at it. And if there is a justification, as there may very well be, for strategic expansions of those highways, that's something that we would take a look at, and I would want to hear from Jason and hear from our candidates. But I do want to say, I didn't say this in my remarks, I do want to be crystal clear about one highway that I can tell you I'll stop, and I'll stop this highway on day one, and that's the 413. I was so proud as Minister of Transportation to say the first time, many years ago, that the 413 didn't make sense. I was the minister who appointed the special panel, the independent panel, to do the first review. It is a highway that would only save a very limited number of commuters a very limited amount of time. I'm talking about seconds, not minutes or hours in their daily commute. That's why it should not proceed. And Ontario Liberals, if elected, will cancel the 413 once and for all. And we'll take that $10 billion that Doug Ford wants to waste on that highway and invest it instead in publicly funded schools right here in Hamilton and across Ontario, so that they can be state of the art in terms of their state of good repair. So there you go. Thanks.
The other question is, Hamilton is experiencing, as well as across in Toronto as well, pedestrian deaths, traffic safety issues. I'm wondering what you and maybe even Jason can do to stop it.
Yeah, so I'll go first. Jason, if you want to jump in, please do. Just a few days ago, I spoke at the Ontario Good Roads Association conference where I made a commitment to a Vision Zero strategy for this province. This is something that we did look at when I was minister. It's something that I know organizations like the Ontario Good Roads Association, many of our municipal partners have been talking about over the years. We are blessed in Ontario in that for a number of years, we've had a really good road safety record. It is something we can be proud of, but there is clearly more work that needs to be done, whether that's around advanced signals or the way that we're building out our communities and some of the pedestrian crossings that I'm quite sure that Jason would have a lot of direct knowledge on. So I'm going to let him answer, but I just wanted to reiterate, I am committed to a Vision Zero strategy for Ontario.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you, Kevin, for the question. And as you know, as a proud member of Hamilton Police Service Board, our chief recently spoke to this issue. Last week, I think it was Tuesday, AM 900 CHML did a poll. It spoke to this issue, and residents overwhelmingly said that what really needs to occur is greater enforcement. That said, just as our leader of the Ontario Liberal Party is focused on Vision Zero, you'll also know that several years ago, we made that commitment and made that mandate real here in the city of Hamilton. And actually, we've been successful. I mean, the anomaly, as sad as it is over the course of the last few months in this city on our streets, aside, over an annualized outlook, we have moved the yardsticks a little. And I think a lot of that is, because we had a council that felt it was important to get behind the Vision Zero mandate. And accordingly, even before we got behind Vision Zero, as you'll know, we started, focusing on the infrastructure, the safer infrastructure on our streets to make that so. And particularly in Ward 2 to close, $4 million worth of public budgeting where the public, actually, the residents of Ward 2 and the business people of Ward 2 and the kids in Ward 2 used a lot of that money to come up with their own ideas on how to make streets safer. And then ultimately using Ward 2 area rating capital reserve dollars, we invested a great many of those $4 million towards doing just that. And you see it everywhere with the protected bike lanes and the bump outs and many other calming measures, including the ultra popular now across the city of Hamilton speed humps, which I'm sure many of you drove over on the way here. Great question, though. It's definitely a prevailing theme.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you.
Afternoon, Nicole Martin from CHCH. Mr. Del Duca, Hamilton is currently an NDP stronghold. What makes you confident that your candidates can sway voters here in the city? And if you can also talk specifically to this riding of Hamilton East Stony Creek that has seen quite a lot of controversy in the last few weeks.
Yeah, so thanks so much for the question. I really appreciate it. I will tell you, first of all, in all of my travels, whether here locally in Hamilton or across the province, when I am asked a question about what makes you, Del Duca, what makes you think that you guys are ready to take on this this responsibility that we need to, that we all have to rebuild the province in a way that will make sense for all of us. I do point out the team that we have managed to assemble, the women and men, including today, of course, Jason Farr, who have stepped forward because they believe so passionately in the plan that we have developed that will make life better and expand opportunity for all Ontarians. That's what people want to see, especially with all of the chaos and havoc that we've had over the past 4 years from the Ford Conservatives. We know in this province, when you want to stop the Conservatives, it is only the Ontario Liberal Party that has the capacity, the team, and the plan to make sure that that happens. So when you see individuals like Jason Farr, with their experience, with their track record, with their clear understanding of what's required to get the job done, it is a clear demonstration that we are best positioned both here locally and across Ontario to not simply defeat the Ford Conservatives, though that's true too, but to actually make sure that we are building the province in the way that works for people here locally and frankly, again, across the province. So this team, this plan, the energy that we are bringing, the new focus that we are bringing, all provide me with an incredible confidence about what the next 44 days will look like. And I'm really looking forward to knocking on doors again here in Hamilton and elsewhere to make sure people understand why we are their best option.
Mr. Farr, if you could just talk a little bit more about Hamilton East Stony Creek, your decision for this riding, and did it have anything to do with Paul Miller being ousted from the NDP?
Sure. Thank you, Nicole, and thank you very much for coming, Kevin and everybody else. I really appreciate it. My decision probably was 1976. My mother was very, very active as a single mom to my brother Greg and I, particularly in the 70s, early 80s, helping out people like Shirley Collins, campaigns of Sheila Copps, John Monroe. I had a very early introduction to the Liberal Party and affinity to that non-divisive approach of the Liberal Party way back then. Several months ago, I would suggest, it started getting serious with good friends like Javed Mirza, Chris Phillips over there, Vito Scro, Bob Bertina, Larry Deaney. It goes on and on and on. I was inspired. I see Solomon and of course, representing Chad Collins in his office, extremely inspired. And most of it, just the serious conversation started after my involvement in the MP's successful campaign. And certainly that was something that I'd always focused on. I mean, we only get one kick at this life, and I want to evolve as a human being. And certainly this is the next step for me politically. The one thing I just can't fathom in my lifetime is not being in a position that I've been in ever since I was a kid, and certainly in my adult life as a broadcaster and a politician, and that's to have the opportunity to give back. It's a very, very rewarding career and public service, and one that I don't take for granted. But it's a good question, and it's certainly been on the hot burner for some months now. Thank you.
We are going to move over to the line right now. A reminder, if you have a question, just raise your hand using the Zoom function. The first question is Robert Benzie from the Toronto Star. Go ahead.
Hi, Stephen. I wanted to ask you about Natalia Kusendova, the Tory MPP, who is being sued by a former romantic partner for $50,000, alleging that she received $30,000 in gifts from this person. I just wanted to know your thoughts about this.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm aware of the media report. I think it raises a lot of troubling questions. I think, in particular, what did Doug Ford, what did the Premier's office know about this particular situation? I think that they and the individual MPP have an awful lot that they need to answer for with respect to whether they've dealt with this in a transparent way, and I hope that they will answer those questions, especially since we are all about to be engaged in that conversation with Ontarians over the next number of weeks. That is the upcoming election. So I think it would be really important for the Premier's office and for the Premier to clear the air about what they knew about this and how they intend to deal with it.
Now, as a follow-up, do you want the Integrity Commissioner to look into this? I mean, she made her declarations. You've done as an MPP, you know what it's like. You fill out your annual declaration. She did, and it didn't include anything that mentioned any gifts from anyone.
Yeah, look, I think the Office of the Integrity Commissioner exists for a reason. There to provide advice and guidance to MPPs, and in my experience, they've always been extraordinarily helpful, as has the Commissioner. And so I would strongly urge the individual MPP to be working closely with the Office of the Integrity Commissioner, receive the guidance in good faith that's provided, and act accordingly.
Next question is from Richard Southern from 680 News. Go ahead, Richard.
Hey, Stephen, good afternoon. There are a number of people in this province that rely on ODSP, and the rates have not gone up in quite some time. I believe the maximum amount a single can get is just over $1,000 a month. If the Liberals are elected next month, will you raise ODSP rates?
Well, thanks very much for the question, Richard. I've had the opportunity since becoming leader to be involved directly in many conversations with advocates who have been talking to me and talking to our platform development team about looking at the rates, how they're structured, what the right level is. We haven't made an announcement about this yet. Obviously, we haven't released our entire campaign platform or election platform just yet. We will be over the next number of weeks, but I will say here today that I've heard that message loud and clear, and I understand, especially given what we've gone through over the past couple of years, as difficult as that has been, that we do need to move forward and see progress in this regard. So stay tuned for more details, but I've heard their advocacy loud and clear.
All right, just two parts here on a follow-up. I mean, when will you make your whole platform clear? We're like 6 weeks away from going to the polls, Stephen. And in addition to that, what do you think your biggest challenge is right now? 6 weeks out from the election, what's the biggest hurdle for you, do you think?
Well, the first part of the answer is we started to release some of our platform ideas just a few days ago. Of course, I announced the Ontario Liberal Plan for equal pay and equal opportunity for women. Really delighted to confirm once again today as per the pledge that I made while running for leader, for the first time in our party's history, at least 50%, perhaps even more, of our candidates are female, will be female. Just a few days ago, we announced that if elected, we'll create 5 new provincial parks here in the province of Ontario and protect 30% of our landmass for future generations. As you know, I talk an awful lot about making sure we have a strong and healthy environment. I'll have more platform announcements over the next number of days, so stay tuned in that regard. And well in advance of June 2nd, well in advance of people here in Hamilton, East Stony Creek and beyond voting, Ontarians will know exactly what our plan is, our plan to help them, our plan to move Ontario forward in a responsible, thoughtful, and competent way, which I believe will contrast extraordinarily well with the chaos that we've seen over the past 4 years from the Ford Conservatives.
And
Okay.
your biggest challenge?
Well, you know, I think the biggest challenge when you're running in a province that's as incredible as ours is just making sure you're out there talking to people like we are today in lovely Hamilton and earning their trust. And I think that's true of all the party leaders. You know, I think that those of us who are in politics or who cover politics get very focused on, I guess, what we'll call the game of politics. It's not a game to real people. It's not a game to everyday families that live here in this riding. They want to know which of the 4 of us has the best team, the best plan, and can actually make their life better in publicly funded education, public health care, an economy that gives workers and their families real dignity and supports small business entrepreneurs, that strong and healthy environment with a real plan to confront the climate crisis. This is what we're focused on. And I feel really, really encouraged about the feedback that I've received so far. But Ontario Liberals are taking nothing for granted. I learned from my parents and grandparents. It's all about hard work. It's all about showing up. That's what Jason and our team will do here in Hamilton. And it's what the rest of our team and I will do right across Ontario.
All right, our next question is from Antonella Artuso from the Toronto
Yeah.
Sun.
I'm on a newser, Jamie.
Sorry. Good morning, Stephen. How are you? Can you hear me?
I can, Antonella. Good to hear you.
Thanks so much. I wanted to ask, in the past, pollsters have suggested that your party has been a key beneficiary of strategic voting. This time around, the NDP is saying they have the numbers to defeat Doug Ford and his party. And I'm wondering what your response is to that.
Well, look, I think that right now the other political leaders, including and other political parties, including the NDP, are, sad to say, very focused on, again, as I said a second ago, that game of politics and trying to figure out how they can divvy up power and who's in first and who's in fourth and who's in between. And I'm just not someone who looks at politics that way. I'm not someone who came back to politics and is running to be Ontario's next premier because I'm worried about things like, or concepts like, strategic voting. I'm worried about my kids' education. And, you know, my parents who are getting just a bit older, I'm worried about whether or not they're going to be able to stay at home, the community they love, in the home that they bought and paid for and love as well, and be safe and healthy while they're living in that home. I'm really concerned about what our environment will look like for my daughters when they're my age, and I want it to be strong and healthy for them. And I'm really worried about, you know, what our economy will look like. So I say all of these things because I am a hopeful and optimistic person. I'm an ambitious person for Ontario, but I know that 4 more years of the Ford Conservatives will only drag us backwards recklessly, and I refuse to accept that for my daughters. And that's what I'm focused on. That's what Jason is focused on here in Hamilton East Stony Creek, not trying to divide up power the way that a lot of the other politicians do at this point in time. So we're focused on Ontarians. The other 3 leaders can focus on us, can focus on, you know, concepts like strategic voting. I'm focused on the people of Ontario, and that's not going to change.
Thank you. Where do you think voters will see the biggest differences between the Liberals and I guess the NDP? You'd be looking for some of the same votes there?
Well, first of all, I think there are 15 million people in this province. There are many who are eligible to vote. I want to be crystal clear about this. I'm competing to earn the trust of every single Ontarian, those who are eligible to vote, those frankly who aren't eligible to vote, like my daughters, who have a vested interest in the next leader of this province because they deserve to have a future that gives them the kind of opportunity that I had. But when it comes to talking to voters, candidates like Jason and the others who are here today make it crystal clear that Ontario Liberals have the team of women and men who are ready to start the important job of moving this province forward on day one. There's no risk of having to wait 6 months while we learn what it's like to be in government. We understand how we can do that work on day one. the plan that we're putting together, a plan that is focused on good, positive, responsible outcomes for Ontario families, real progress that they can count on, and the energy that we are bringing to this mission of ours to end the chaos of the last 4 years of the Ford Conservatives and move Ontario forward, producing real progress, making our province once again a place where you can grow, where good things can happen for everyday people. So that's what we're focused on. And I think stacked up against what we see from the other political leaders, parties, their teams and their plans, Ontario Liberals, I think we have the right approach. And I'm looking forward to this next 44 days.
Okay, and there are no other questions on the line. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.